So on this channel, we talk about discerning the times and understanding your perception of reality. Now, a lot of people are wondering, what is it that's being scripted, acted out, and part of this movie that we are watching versus what is organic, or if there is a hybrid version of this? Because quite frankly, not everything could be scripted. Not everything you see, what people say is completely scripted, and they're all in on this. There are people that may have taken a deal, they're bad guys, they've taken a plea deal, whatever it is, they're acting out whatever the white hats are telling them. There are black hats still out on the loose. There are white hats that are in part playing their role and doing their thing. There are other white hats that are not aware of this operation that's going on. And by operation, I mean this continuity of government operation. And this, if you research devolution, if you research what happened after 2020, people talk about this all over, because what has been publicly stated by Trump and many others is that the election was stolen. And if the election was stolen, did President Trump, have a duty as commander-in-chief, as president at the time, to do something about it? Because he couldn't have just gone out, taken the presidency back and said, you know what, it's mine, I want it fair and square, and just told everybody, told the world. It would have caused chaos. It would have caused civil war, division, and people all over the world, they wouldn't have believed it, because it looks like, optically speaking, a dictator. And so all of this is the premise for what has been this 4-year-long sort of speculation of this Q movie that's being scripted out and played before our very eyes. Because things are very odd. If you've realized over the last 4 years, Biden, if you believe that he's a masked president, he clearly does not look like the same guy from 10 years ago. So among other oddities, there are many things happening. So people are questioning, they're going down this rabbit hole, if you want to call it that, or this truth-seeking movement and journey. And this has allowed people to wake up more and more and believe what is a different perception of reality than other people. On this channel, I've talked previously about the war that we are in. And just briefly, I'll even show you the slide that I presented on, where I talk about this battle of Satan, God versus, of course, God wins, but satanic versus godly. People that are trying to centralize things for the end times. Globalism, communism, liberal left. This will usher in the Antichrist later on. They're using the invisible elite, people that have power, central banks, the deep state. I've talked about this before. And there are instruments like the mainstream media, big tech. Again, not everybody in that is demonic or they're going to pledge their allegiance to Satan. I'm not saying that. They're just being used and influenced, culturally speaking, to be used as an instrument for satanic purposes. And people that are manipulated or not manipulated, they're asleep, they're not asleep, they're Christian, they're not non-Christian, they're all unaware or aware of this. And those that are in the godly movement, they realize that decentralization is the best way to go. We don't want this whole WHO, pandemic treaty that is going to control every single country. It's going to usher in a global one world order, right? Capitalism, individualism, being conservative, all this stuff, right? We know the leanings, the ideologies, and all that stuff. Trump, patriots, white hats being used for this time, the people standing up, independent media, influencers, Christians, prophets, right? So all of this is something I've presented on before. And I've also talked about this perception of reality, which is that you are either in audience 1, you're in audience 2, or you are in audience 3, where you are enlightened. And so audience 1, quickly, are those that are the majority of the population. They recognize satanic versus godly. They recognize that there's clearly, information versus misinformation, conspiracy. There's this rich versus poor. There's movements behind it, like the populist movement. You have this global elite, the war, right? All the war stuff, like good versus evil. You have shock, exaggeration. You need proof for things. So all of this is waking people up, right? So if you're in this audience, most of what Trump is doing with his politics and just other people, they're trying to wake people up in this area. If you are more researched and more awakened, then you realize the ideologies. You realize the left versus right. You realize woke, liberal versus conservative. You realize that there are leanings in the media, that if you deep dive in any one of these areas, the education system, the censorship that's going on, corporations, if you look into the financial system, you're on, the Reddit movement or whatever it is, the food and drug, you understand that there are things that are not good for you, their whole motive, the legislation, what's behind it, like all this stuff, all these pillars, you do more research and you realize, oh my goodness, people need to wake up, look at what they're doing with our kids, with our education system, with the Hollywood and all that stuff. So these people are more awakened to what's obvious and out there. And those that are in audience 3, they are more enlightened. These are the people that I would call the less than 1% of the population that truly did deep dive research. They're asking the Lord for discernment, and they're quite literally aware of this continuity of government operation playing out because, again, from the fact that because this election, the 2020 election was stolen, whether foreign or domestic agents, whatever it is, President Trump had a duty to do something. He did something. He enacted something. He's still commander-in-chief, but he can't, there's an optics issue. And so what you're seeing is a scripted movie that is being played out before our very eyes with actors, because Trump refers to central casting often. If you look at Q, if you research the Law of War Manual, executive orders, people have written books about it. Derek Johnson talks about it. Many people talk about it. And there's other speculative things like people in Guantanamo Bay being detained or even executed. The quotes, the best is yet to come. Other people theorizing the quantum financial system, Jazera and Nazera, all this stuff is part of this enlightened movement. And this is where, if you are more researched and well-rounded, then you would know that some things you may disagree on. So this is where I talk about the idea of scripted versus organic. A lot of people talk about this. They're asking this question for every event that comes up. To what degree is the Trump trials? To what degree was the Baltimore Bridge? To what degree were some attacks and all the news coming out, Mar-a-Lago raid, all these things that are happening? To what degree is it still scripted or is it organic? Meaning on this degree of scriptedness or organicity, which is a word, or is it a hybrid? Like, are there people that are working behind the scenes, completely scripting it, because that still sounds unbelievable, or is it or part of it completely organic? A lot of people think this is all organic, but really, as Q mentioned, many people have mentioned, a lot of this is scripted, and it's being done because there is an operation, and it's in some sense a distraction to not only, and there's a dual purpose, to wake people up, but as people are looking over here, something else behind the scenes is happening over here in order to catch the bad guys, in order to do more of whatever the behind the scenes stuff is. And what you've got to realize is that there are bad guys that have submitted to white hat authority, right? They've taken plea deals, they've taken a like a reduction in sentence or whatever it is to get more information. Just like if you watch any criminal, drama, these guys are birds that are singing, right? They're just telling it off and they're taking deals. Other people, they won't take deals. But because these guys are still necessary to act out the script that they're playing, they're still here. And the same goes for the good guys. There are white hats that are playing a role. They're playing out a role. They may sound like they don't know anything, or they may actually sound like they're a bad guy, but they're being used as this antagonist for whatever purpose, to galvanize, to wake up other people and all that stuff. So that's why there are questions, debates about is Pence and all these guys, are they good or bad and all that stuff. A lot of people believe what they want to believe, in the sense that even within the truther community, even within Audience 3, certain people are bad guys that are under white hat submission. They're clearly bad guys, or they're good guys and they're playing a role, or they're acting, dumb in a sense. Or are there organic people? Are there bad guys that have no idea about this continuity of government, but they're not under submission, but they are doing their own thing? They're probably under the influence of black hat, authority. They're puppeteers, or they're acting out their own narcissism in their own delusional state, projecting whatever it is that they want to project from their own ideology. And obviously, it is not patriotic or for the people, godly, Holy Spirit led. And these bad guys are out there doing what they're doing without regard to what they think is this, COG, continuity of government. Good guys are also out there. White hat innovators, I call them. Vanguards. These are people that are championing efforts. They may also not be aware of COG, or they could be aware of COG, but they're playing dumb or ignorant, and they're just playing their role to galvanize more people, wake up more people. They're either targeting Audience 2 or they're targeting Audience 1, and they're waking more people up. So this is what's happening with regards to this scale and what's happening. So the question you got to ask with this Trump trial is what's happening? Is it scripted? Is it not? What's really going on? And so there are a couple things to look at. First of all, what is it doing? You have to ask yourself, what is it doing to each audience? Audience 1, what's happening, right? Even CNN recently admits, this guy Fareed on CNN has talked about what it's doing to the base and also to new people that are looking at this as being, in some sense, a witch hunt, as being some kind of politically motivated hit to take down Trump. And it's going to actually backfire on the liberals on the left. So let's just quickly take a look at this clip.
And the trials against him keep him in the spotlight, infuriate his base, who sees him as a martyr, and even may serve to make him the object of some sympathy among people in general who believe that his prosecutors are politically motivated. This happens to be true, in my opinion. I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump. A majority of Americans are skeptical that Trump will be able to get a fair trial, according to a CNN poll.
So if you want to look at it from audience one perspective, either this is being used to awaken more people to Trump, get them to understand what's really going on. Because if you look at the details of the case and the trial, there's actually nothing in the sense of what has Trump done wrong? What the Michael Cohen stuff, all this stuff, what has he done wrong, right? So this is a complete witch hunt of the greatest order. He's not going to, if they want to take him to jail, he may actually end up sitting in jail, and that's going to anger more people, and it's going to win more of the base and new people, the left even, over to Trump, realizing what's happening to America, what's happening to democracy in the sense of free speech and people that want to do good, but they're being persecuted. So this is going to wake more people up. The other thing it's going to do from an audience one perspective is that it's going to get people's feet wet and in some sense acceptance of when the actual hammer goes down on the actual bad guys. So because Trump has gone through weeks, even a month plus of this whole ordeal during campaigning, during this critical election season, because people have seen it happen to him and he's going to be cleared, he's going to be whatever all the way through. And if he isn't and he's convicted in the sense of it being wrongfully accused, then people are going to see it. They're going to see right through it. They're going to try to convince people, the ones that are sleeping. And it's going to then instill others to step up and say, you know what, if they did it to Trump, we can do it to the actual bad guys. And you're going to see that play out in its beauty as it's being done with the left and with the bad guys. And so this is what it may happen with audience one. What's happening for audience two? Audience two is for those that are doing more research, more deep dives into what's really going on. It's going to allow them to dig into the actual crimes, into the actual things, and it's going to then allow them to make their conclusion into the education system, into the corporation stuff, into the financial stuff. It's going to bring more attention, fan the flame into doing more research so that people clearly see what this populist movement is about, what this whole justice system is about, what this whole whatever left versus right is about. And it's going to get more people deep diving into this. So audience one is the basics, right? Morality, justice, and incorrect persecution and all that stuff. Even regardless of what you think of this guy, they're going to turn from and have the veil torn from their image and their perception of him. Audience two is more deeper stuff because as it allows the court system seal indictments, right? All this stuff to come out, it's going to provide a platform from a judicial, a jury, as well as the federal court system. All of this is going to come out and you're going to see more and more of it. It's an avenue to do that. At the same time, it being a military operation behind the scenes, you're going to see more of whatever it is that they're doing from a clandestine perspective being played out. And so, again, I'm not going to get into that detail, but then this bleeds into audience three, which is that whatever continuity of government operation is happening as this final round is leading up to the elections, it is still being played out and you're seeing this happen. So this could completely be scripted, or you could see the deep-seated double agent assets, and you can see where they stand as they make their moves, their final moves, and you're going to see all of the other people that have been rounded up and each their own, whatever it is that they're doing, whatever the military knows of each person, they're going to get them in this final, act. And so this is what's happening for the enlightened stage. Again, I don't want to talk too much more into that because a lot of it may be speculative, but the point is, as I've said before, there's some degree of it being hybrid, organic, and also scripted. And so I don't know what that is, but what I know for sure is that is the case for this particular instance, and also for many other events that are going to come up into the near future, into the summer, and as we approach, quote unquote, these elections. And we'll see if it even happens, because a lot of people don't believe it will happen. So again, I'm saying this from this perspective, that be ready, understand your reality, your perception, and what audience it's targeting and what the messaging is from an optics perspective, because there's a lot of work to be done, and it's multi-pronged, multi-layered, and it's 5D chess in some sense, fifth dimensional warfare, and it's being played out right before our very eyes. So love you guys, be encouraged. God is sovereign over everything. He's going to take care of all of it. Love you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.